Hey, it's Merrill. I recommend that you watch parts 1 and 2 before you watch part 3. So just click on the pictures to see parts 1 and 2. Welcome to part 3 of my workshop on proportions for portrait drawing. This series is made for art students, and this part will cover the profile view of the head. I hope to give you some easy to remember rules and a formula so that you'll be able to draw the human head from your memory. Let's get started by reviewing what we learned already. Videos 1 and 2 proved that the eyes are not at the center of the head. It's generally 5 eye lengths across the face if you include the ears. It's 1 eye length between the 2 eyes. The outer corners of the nose generally line up with the outer edge of the tear duct in the eye. The corners of the mouth are generally not as wide as the midpoint of the eye. The ears generally fall between the upper eyelid and the bottom of the nose. Now let's look at the head from the profile view and add to our existing knowledge. The first question asks, is the head more tall or is it more deep? In other words, let's compare the distance between the chin and the top of the head. Wow, it looks close, but there's a strange reason for that. Observe the slope of the forehead and the shape of the top of the head. When we measure from the jawline, we go up to the top front of the head, which is lower in height than the back of the head when we're looking forwards. Notice the difference when we measure the distance from the chin to the top back of the head. There's no comparison anymore. For our purposes, let's think of the head as an egg shape from the side. But the egg is not straight up and down. It's at an angle. Egg-shaped. Maybe Stewie's head isn't that out of proportion. Now that we understand the basic shapes of the head from the side, let's look for universal rules. A good place to start is Leonardo DaVinci. Leonardo said, the distance from the middle of the nose to the bottom of the chin is half the length of the face. This rule applied to all 8 of the models, and the middle of the nose as a halfway point complements what we learned in video 1 and 2. So let's add it to the formula. Leonardo also measured the distance between the chin and the throat, and the mouth and the bottom of the chin as equal distances. This rule applied to all 8 of the models. He also said from the chin to the back of the neck is the same distance as between the mouth and the roots of the hair. Once again, this rule applied to all 8 models. The 3 previous rules were helpful, but some of DaVinci's formula didn't apply to our models. For instance, the space from the chin to the base of the nose is the third part of the face and equal to the length of the nose and the forehead. This breaks the face up into 3 equal parts, but it only applied to 5 of our models. Finally, DaVinci stated, from the eyebrow to the junction of the lip with the chin, and the angle of the jaw and the upper angle where the ear joins the temple will be a perfect square. 0 out of 8 people formed a perfect square from the 4 points that DaVinci named. I'm mentioning this because we should keep the relationship between these 4 points in the back of our mind when we draw from observation, but let's leave them out of our proportion formula. One of the biggest mistakes that students make when drawing the head from profile is the depth of the ear, or in other words, how far back the ear is from the face. I recently came across a website that stated that the ear is exactly half the distance between the face and the back of the head. This information, of course, is wrong. It's definitely further back than that. The green line measures the distance from the face to the midpoint of the ear, and the red line measures the distance between the midpoint of the ear and the back of the head. I estimate that the midpoint of the ear is 55 to 70% of the distance from the face to the back of the head. Be sure to notice that there is a range of values rather than a universal rule, so we will have to average our answer. Now I'm going to test a measurement from one of my former teachers at the Art Students League of New York, who taught me that there's an imaginary equilateral triangle that connects the pupil, the back arch of the ear, and the chin. When I tested this measurement, it existed on 7 of the 8 people I measured. However, there's a flaw to this system. Notice that the bottom point exists at different points on the jawline. But overall, this measurement helps us see that it is usually an equal distance between the eyes and the chin, the eyes and the ear, and the chin and the ear. We're almost done, so let's wrap up with a few quick observations to learn about relationships between the features of the face, and then I will demonstrate your new formula. The question asks, is the nose the most outermost feature of the face? The answer is yes, but on 4 of the 8 models it was very close. The next question asks, does the pupil and iris line up with the corner of the nose? It only did on 1 of the 8 people that I tested. Then I asked, does the pupil and iris line up with the corner of the mouth? And it didn't for any of the 8 people. I studied the relationship between the pupil, the corner of the nose, and the corner of the mouth. I noticed a pattern. On most people, the corner of the nose is the furthest point of the 3. The mouth and the nose often lined up, with the eye being the furthest back of the 3. So, did you get all that? Yeah, that was a lot of information. Let me see if I could do a quick review while I'm drawing, so that you get all that, so you don't have to go back and take notes. I am starting out with the egg shape, just drawing an egg, and I'm putting a line through the center, and I know that the eye line is a little bit lighter. Not lighter, higher, a little bit higher. I'm also putting in the triangle. Remember, 3 equal spaces, 3 equal distances, from the point of the ear to the chin to the eye region, and I am putting in the eye right about there. You can see the eyebrow very soon. Putting in the nose. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm thinking of the slide with the mouth sometimes being a little bit more further out. This is a male character. I noticed that on males the mouth usually protrudes a little bit more. Not just the mouth, but the bones and muscles underneath seem to be pushed forward a little bit more. I am doing the jawline. Jawline usually goes up very close to the ear. It's a line right now. I'm going to make it more of a smudge. It is more of a smudge. I am shaping the head. Remember, when you start out with an egg shape, that doesn't mean you have to keep it an egg shape. You're going to carve out that egg. It's like a piece of clay. You carve off the pieces that you don't want, and you have rules that you could check with later, such as from the chin to the throat, like Da Vinci said, is equal to the chin to the mouth, to the split in the mouth, and that is actually intact. I'm just doing some quick dark hatching for hair, and this drawing came out okay. I'm using the shading brush. I got a lot of comments last time. You didn't finish your drawing, so I'm going to finish this one. You guys never get to see me draw without a reference image. This one is completely from my head, so psychoanalyze me if you want. I have no idea. I just went in with this one with no plan, other than all of the formulas which I gave you, which, believe me, as you know, is a lot to remember. Anyway, back to the formulas. The ear stays between the nose and the upper eye, and that works. Let's see what else. It still has that egg shape. That's still working. The eye is further back, than the nose and the mouth. The nose and the mouth are almost lining up. If I did one thing wrong, the ears would go a little bit further back, and the jaw, I think, a little bit more further back. I just threw in a body just for the heck of it. I'm like, alright, I do too many floating heads on this channel, so let me give this dude a body. Kind of looks like a tough guy, Jersey Shore. So I'm giving him the T-shirt, and I'm not going to go into too much detail with the body, but I'm just going to do a little bit of hatching, a little bit of smudging, and I'm finishing up my character. Dude saying, "Hey, you talking to me? Forget about it." Hey, there's my real New York accent. Had to give him bulging muscles, because he's got a perfectly proportioned head. Got to proportion the arms now. do a little bit of smudging, and then I'm done. Anyway, I hope that this helped. I'm sorry about the comments. I've been a lot more difficult to reach with the comments lately. I'm in finals time, both as a teacher and as a student. I'm getting my second master's in special education right now while working as a special education teacher after teaching art for 9 years and continuing to teach you art here on this channel. So life is pretty busy. Oh yeah, I'm a dad too. That keeps me pretty busy. But I listen to all of your requests and I try to get as many comments answered as I can. Anyway, check out these 3 videos. I hope that you enjoyed this.